Welcome once again to Breakfast Central. Let's take you through the newspapers this morning. We have Sesan Okunade joining us to review some of these major stories. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Good
morning, blessings.
All right. We begin this morning with the Punch newspapers. Let's share some of the big ones here. It says here, nationwide protest. SGF ministers hold emergency meeting today. Tinubu urges youths to shelve August 1st rally. Atiku, Labour Party caution against protesters' arrest. IG Igbetokun warns anti-government protester says Nigeria hasn't recovered from end SARS protest. Military hands over rescued Chibok girl and 330 orders to Borno government. And also Malta plant, which is of course breaking a new controversy now. Kyari counters Dangote amid calls for probe. Our abductors got 5 million naira ransom, says freed NYSC members. Mohbad's family conducts fresh autopsy. I hope he would eventually get some rest at some point. National Assembly okays 70,000 naira wage labor to meet governors, and also Senate approves IGP's 10-year extension. Federal government votes 2 trillion naira for Lagos, Calabar, and others. These are some of the big stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
All right, we also have Daily Independence, where the biggest story there is the protest, of course, over hardship. And it says here that Tinubu is saying that the protest is not necessary. And as we've seen in the Punch, he's asking for it to be shelved. And then we also see that they're saying that restates commitment to improve on education and other interventions as well. And then also a recall that the protest be averted, and then the CSO is telling the president to address Nigerians and to caution his aides. We just talked about that. You know, there's so many aides surrounding him. The CSO is telling him to caution them. And then on page 7, we also see anti-hunger protest. The police won't watch extremists unleash violence in Nigeria, the IGP has vowed. And the question is that the right way to go? Now, page 7 also sees the story that says, "Don't hold Rivers PDP ward, local government areas, state congresses. The court has ordered the police and others." Then we see 1,605 naira to the dollar exchange rate, which may further push up airfares, according to United Nigeria chairman. Now, page 6 says that Gabon's president invites Dangote to invest in cement fertilizer production, since the country doesn't want him. Now, we also see another story that says banks may experience liquidity squeeze as MPC raises MPR to 26.75%. And that's an interesting one that we also need to look at again. Then at the top of the paper, we see the federal government injecting 1 trillion naira support into manufacturing sector, according to the minister. And then we also see the NASS passes 70,000 naira minimum wage bill and okays the IGP to complete their tenure. And these are the stories on the Daily Independent newspaper.
All right. Quickly, some stories on First News this morning. Shelf plans and solutions are underway. President Tinubu pleads. Jigawa governor, protests won't help. Pray instead.
Oh, well.
IGP, police ready to handle protests. FM Falana warns federal government. Shun threats, engage organizers. Atiku supports protests and warns against crackdown. 5 billion naira defamation case. See you in court, Ononuga tells Pitobi. Can CBN tame the beast? Interest rate soar to 26.75% as Nigeria battles inflation. National Assembly passes 70,000 naira minimum wage. On top of your screen there, well, it says Agbada man can't keep it cool. Chimetaloagu gushes over his wife on her birthday. Happy birthday to her. All right, let's get straight into it. Of course, it has to be the protest conversations, the different reactions to it. The Jigawa governor asking Nigerians to pray, the president saying that the solutions are underway, and of course, IGF police asking that protesters stay at home.
Osag, all the headlines are, I'm sure, quite interesting this morning and laughable. Looking at the governor asking us to pray. These are prayers we've been offering since the beginning of this democratic setting, and what gains have we gotten? We prayed all the through 80 years of the last administration with several promises, from resuscitating our refineries to making life more interesting for people. But what have we gotten? We discovered that a lot of people are actually being impoverished. It was during that administration we had another language, multidimensional poverty, that we had. Before then, we used to hear people are poor, then we move from poor to the poor of the poorest, kind of. So I don't know how they want some of those things. And just to have an interesting face to this hardship, we saw what CBN came up with after their MPC meeting yesterday, increasing interest rates. So you ask yourself, a lot of businesses keep nosediving because part of the things you do as a business owner is to borrow funds. So you ask yourself, if the benchmark is about 26.75 as given yesterday, so the least when the likes of the big wigs like Dangote or Tedola, you know, the Elumelus wants to borrow, the least they can get, we'll be talking about 30 to 31% because there are other charges that will come into it. So when it comes to the lowest kudo, which are the SMEs, you'll be talking about 35%. While we are growing up, you cannot even have a margin. So if you are to keep that amount, so you'll be talking of margin as much as 40-something% on whatever you want to give to your client. So how do you expect the client to carry out some of those things? And that's why you're seeing exit of some of this country, and you are beating a child. You are asking him. You know, it reminds me of those days while we are growing up. When they give you some beating, you say, "Fem," and you try to hold back. But the pain, you won't know when you say, I say, that is what we are faced with currently. In as much as someone like me, looking at what protesters actually, even when the current president organized the 2011, 2013, and Bayo Ononuga, we discovered that there was still, you know, crisis then. People lost their life because we've observed that the law enforcement agency cannot even match some of those people that are motivated against peaceful protest. That is just the problem. There is no issue when you come out to say, we want to express our voice. A lot of people does that via this platforms like this. When we come out to talk, you try to express yourself that these things are not going right. I come out and I shout that businesses are bleeding. You come out and shout that the cost of energy is high. It's a form of protest. But you can do that while you are here because you're expressing yourself. But when you get out there, the same hoodlums who is actually feeling the pain you and I are feeling, some people will motivate them, give them stipends, that they will just have that, and they will come to attack those that are out there just to carry out those things. That is my worry. It's not, and for the Jigar governor telling us that we should, we've even prayed, we fasted. The situation has allowed our fasting to go beyond the normal 6 o'clock to about 3 days dry fasting. So we can't continue praying. We need action.
Okay.
The fasting
From
is
the
mostly
part of
because there's
them.
no food.
Actually, there is involuntary
The fasting is
but
mostly because
I
of
would
food.
like to come to the monetary policy rate, but very quickly, I want to remind the viewers the phone lines are now open, and in case you have any of the stories that piqued your interest and you want us to talk about, or you want to share your own views as to what's happening in the economy today, and you know, whatever it is, however it can get better, do also phone in and let's hear your own thoughts on it. Let's talk about the monetary policy rate and the, you know, the increase thereof. Now, you gave a very important example of, you know, the people at the higher cadre and then, you know, the ones at the average. Although they say there's no more average in Nigeria, it's either you're rich or you're poor.
Correct.
How does this help at the end of the day? First of all, there's no telling that it doesn't exactly change the status of inflation in the country as we speak. So what is the benefit to the average Nigerian?
There's no benefit, bless. It's going to create more hardship because you see, when you're in business, there are ways you fund your projects. It's either you mop up funds from family and say, please give this to me, I will refund back in certain, that's mopping up from family, or you go get some funds on your own, which is always at a cost, or you go to the bank. Most people go get it because that's the essence of the financial institution, to provide funds from the depositors' funds that they have so that they can pay, you know, those people back certain interest of those that are having savings and fixed deposit. But a situation where you cannot even have access to that at a reasonable rate, people are borrowing. You see, how do you expect us to compete with the Asian country who borrows funds from their government at almost between single digit? Don't let me pick a specific figure. Single digit as against somebody borrowing at 26.75%. You cannot match up. When you now put the cost of energy, you ask yourself, how do you go about this? You add the African richest man lamenting on certain things that are actually happening. And I ask myself, if Dangote is lamenting, what becomes of small and medium enterprise on this particular issue? People are talking about monopoly of Dangote. I asked Elon Musk, on his own, monopolize some of those things. When you go to China, you look at organizations like Huawei, they are being supported by their government, because what they do is that when you promote the indigenous firm who has taken the risk of investing so much in that, it will promote, employment.
All right, very quickly, I think we have a caller, Adebayo from Jos. Adebayo, good morning. Can you hear us?
Good morning, I'm hearing you.
Good morning, Adebayo. Can you hear us? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, hopefully he calls back if you can connect with us. We can hear Adebayo speak this morning. Let's go ahead, Mr. Okunade.
Yeah, so you now imagine if people are saying monopoly. I looked at it that somebody sat down, came out with innovation, took the risk.
All right, let's try this again. Adebayo, good morning. Can you hear us?
I'm hearing you.
All right, go ahead, please.
I'm hearing you very well.
Kindly go ahead.
I'm hearing you very well.
All right, Adebayo, what is your opinion on the stories of this morning?
I'm just trying to be grateful of what you people are discussing today. Glory be to God that I'm trying to be grateful of what is going on today in Nigeria, because prayer is being answered by God. All what is happening in economy is by refute.
Thanks a lot. Zakwandi, go ahead, please.
So you ask yourself, what is the position of a level, where is the level playing ground? When you talked about monopoly, I've seen instances where organizations in this country are being sponsored by their government because they believe so much in activities they are doing. This guy did a very calculative risk. If he has lost this magnitude of this project, as we're talking, the refinery is changing the dynamics in the world of something coming out of Africa, the largest single trade, to be producing this. And we're saying it's monopolizing it. You are demarketing yourself because you want to promote other countries. Even if it's not getting it right, there are things you can come on and say, Dangote, what support do you need from government in such a way that we can do it, rather than coming on air at the head of an agency saying that the product is actually is inferior, it's not.
Especially for a country that doesn't have its own refineries.
I keep wondering. So it's really battling and worrisome. If such people are actually being challenged, what are you giving? And you ask the younger generation to come out with innovation and do certain things. It's really not going to work.
Good morning, Samuel. It's calling from Taraba. We may have lost him. All right. So let's move to other things this morning. I think it's on the Daily Independent. Sorry, on the First News newspaper. It says here, 5 billion naira defamation case. See you in court on Onuguate Hospital. I'm sure you've heard about that situation.
Yeah, I've heard about it, and I want to appeal to Egmobayo to please tread with caution. We understand the plight that is actually on the payroll of the government. He used to be on this other side. But when you're on the other side, you must defend the cause at which what you are paid to do is a senior special advisor to the president. He's not feeling the pain that we are feeling. So he might go the route to say that. The approach of the president is not even saying don't protest, but it's even appealing. But when you come out and you make people look as if protesting is something that is wrong, what you have actually carried out, I love what happened on X yesterday. People dug out information of past things that you've actually commented. When it comes to the issue of this protest. But because you're on this side now, you feel that it's something that is illegal, it's something that is not right. Like I keep saying, my position is, if we have the law enforcement agency out there to protect the protesters, to protect them, I think they'll be able to pass the message. Things are not going the right way it should.
Okay.
All right.
All right, we'll go on a very short break. The conversations are nowhere near done, so we'll come back, of course, to continue the conversation. Of course, we have more callers, but stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, Thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Breakfast Central, and of course, we've been taking a look at the big stories across the papers this morning, and we still have our guest, Sesan Okunade, who has been helping us dissect the issues. And you were talking about the response of Bayo Ononuga, who was accusing, allegedly, Peter Obi of... But, okay, I think we have a caller, Dr. Afang from Makurdi. Good morning, Dr. Afang.
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Welcome. Go ahead.
Yeah. Please, I'm morning. How are you?
Welcome. Go ahead. Yeah. Call him on your television, and then please go ahead. On your television, and then please go ahead.
Yeah, in the interest of Nigerian citizens, the federal government should do all that is possible to jumpstart the operation of Dangote's refinery. The federal government should do all that is possible to jumpstart.
Afam, we can't hear you, while you try to also hear yourself on television. So please, you probably have to call back, but please turn down your TV's volume before you do. Mr. Okunade, earlier we had George Ashiru from the ADC join us just before you came in. And one of the things that we spoke about was, in order for the current administration to convince Nigerians to shelve their protests, they should be able to communicate with Nigerians effectively. Communicate with the people, not through spokespersons now, but Mr. President himself, to communicate with Nigerians and convince them, why they should understand that his administration is putting the right things in place. Why do you think that is so hard?
Well, I too, I don't understand, I must say. I listened to the SSG when he represented the president at a particular program, and I asked myself, the writers of the speech of some of those people, what they actually take Nigerians for. I was actually talking about some of the promises already accomplished.
So we sincerely apologize. I think we still have Afam. Afam, are you still there? Go ahead, please.
Yeah. As I was saying, in the interest of Nigeria, it is important for the federal government to do all that is possible to resolve the crisis between Dangote and NNPC in the face of imminent energy crisis. I am not in support of importing finished products. This is an opportunity for Nigeria to reap from a viable project. If that factory goes into full operation, I think we'll be in a position to buy fuel at the cost of maybe 300 to 400 naira per liter, with its concomitant economic advantages. Secondly, no country can industrialize with an interest rate or fiscal policy that places interest rate in banks of above 30%. In China, industries are given single-digit interest rate with long period of payment. So the central bank governor should kindly do all that is humanly possible to bring down interest rate. Nobody will go into manufacturing now at such an interest rate. That is why we are seeing massive importation into this country. And when we import, we are empowering the industries of other countries and impoverishing our own industrial base. And finally, I would like to appeal to the president to engage those that are planning to go on a nationwide strike. They should consider that as a negative feedback mechanism in the whole gamut of governance. The people are saying that they are not satisfied because of high cost of living. What government should do is to provide an enabling environment for soccer to land. Sending 200 to 300 trawlers of rice to states won't solve the problem. Let me give you a simple analogy. I am from Vatican local government with 12 wards. If you send a trailer load of rice, which is about 600 bags, each ward may end up with just 12 bags of rice. And then you would divide those 12 bags of rice to 5 or 6 kindreds, as the case may be. So what would be the quantity of rice that people will benefit?
Yeah.
Instead of using money to buy palliatives, government should use these resources to provide farming seedlings, fertilizers, and tools. We are at the peak of farming season.
All right, Afam, we're going to have to, end it here, but thank you very much. I think in the interest of time, thank you so much for joining and for contributing. I said it yesterday that, sharing rice makes Nigeria look like a big IDP camp. And once people complain, you give them rice, to eat, and that's not what it is.
Not providing one to support the rice with.
Yeah, well, exactly. No stew.
No stew.
Or ofaku, if you're in the southeast. Let's talk about, communication like you were mentioning.
Yeah, I think on this note, Mr. President needs to speak to the people. As a matter of urgency, there should be a public address. He should address the generality of the country. And this is not where we come with speech writing. He should be passionate to actually communicate with the people. See, I will always say this. The last time the president came to Lagos and people are shouting, while we are hungry, in your domain, it passed the message to you. If people around you are telling you that things are actually working right, you should, go to the midst. We know him as a grassroots person. If suddenly, because you are high up there, you are not getting the right information, move like the likes of Fashola would do while he was governor in Lagos. You are carrying out a project. He wants to visit it on his own and have from information on his own. We want the president to address us. Enough of everyone that is out there surrounding the president are paid. As you are paid to protect the interest of this organization. Even when your managing director is actually, you rather go back and say, Oga, this is not it. But when you're speaking outside, you won't speak against some of those things. So the lieutenants surrounding him are actually doing the work they are paid to do, but they are not giving him the right information.
Even though arrogantly?
Well, when you are being paid and you're on top of the world, a lot of them forget so soon because they were actually criticizing a lot of people who were there. Now they are there and they are doing worse than what those people were actually doing. But what do you say? That's what we get in the country. But we want a situation where the president himself, because if you ask the first lady, she will tell you there was a time she was actually talking about people doing house farming, at least to salvage some of it, is to tell you that things are hard. And until you address that issue of insecurity, there is no how you will send people to farm. So you can only ask them to do that farming in their houses if they have the space to actually carry it out, and you are not having that mechanized and big farming that can solve the problem. Right. So you must address the issue of insecurity, and it's high time the president himself addressed us. All the ones that the lieutenant, the SSA are saying, they are paid to do that. They are doing a fantastic job. Yeah. As a matter of fact, they will get more appointments and get more accolades for actually speaking the way they are speaking. But on the part of with the citizen, they are not doing it right because average citizens are not enjoying this.
I think it's important, that everyone should maybe keep this in mind, that if Mr. President still doesn't find it important enough to speak to the Nigerian people, then you can take that, interpret it the way that you choose. If Mr. President doesn't, see it as important enough between now and the 1st of August, when Nigerians are saying that they would go for a nationwide protest, he still doesn't think that maybe it's time that he, sets up a nationwide broadcast and speaks to the people. Then that tells you a lot, and
I'm very sure he will do that. I'm very, very sure.
We'll see.
He will do that. Otherwise, it will be because the analysts are not managing the info. They are not managing the situation very well. Sincerely speaking, they keep evoking, this annoyance in people. People are hungry. Yeah. Definitely, they are angry. Rather than sitting in sweet words to appease them, you are just arrogantly, talking to them.
The word on the street is you can't tame someone who doesn't want to be tamed, right? If you don't want to talk to the people, there's no amount of essays and PAs that will stop you from actually communicating with the people. I
just thought it was important to point that out. Mr. Okunade, thank you very much for stopping by.